So basically, I wanted to reserve my opinion on this until now. I wanted to just sit down, think about what I wanted to say, and then go from there. And I know a lot of Nintendo fanboys are going to have a problem with what I'm going to say. But as a consumer of games, I love game systems, I love playing them. I simply want my hardware to be able to play the games that I want to be able to play. Look at it like a computer. You can buy any computer you want, and they will all be able to run the exact same programs, exact same hardware, whatnot. Performance varies, but your computer's going to be able to do whatever you want. And I kind of expect the same thing for my game systems. But with the Nintendo Switch, rumors are coming out that it's not going to be as powerful as any of the current um, game systems on the market are. They say that when the Switch is in tablet mode or handheld mode, portable mode for the most part, it'll only be running at about 40% of its max power. And that's worrying to me simply because when you play your games, you want them to not only look good, you want them to play well. And I'm not the type of person that will sit here and say graphics matter because they don't. But for a console, I feel that graphics matter. You want your system to have the hardware in it. Because if the system doesn't have the hardware in it, then developers aren't going to develop for it. And then we're going to have the same problems we had with the GameCube, the same problems that we had with. As a matter of fact, this has been a problem all throughout Nintendo's history. I think even going back to like the Nintendo 64, like nobody wanted to develop for it because cartridges were so expensive. Well, yeah, I guess this is nothing new for Nintendo, but we are now in an age where people want to be able to play their games on any console. Like right now, I own the base model PlayStation 4, and it's kind of dumb to say that base model PS4 because I mean you buy your game systems so they last a long time, but I mean I guess that's where we're at right now. And the Nintendo Switch at release will be less powerful than the first release of the PlayStation 4, and that's a problem. Because right now, Sony released the PlayStation 4 Pro, and Microsoft is releasing their Xbox One S sometime soon. And the power differences between them are not that great. Like the Switch is said to have a processing power of about a teraflop. That's its graphical capabilities right there. The PlayStation 4 base model is about like 1.8 teraflops or something like that. The Xbox One is like 1.3. The PlayStation 4 Pro is about 4.3 teraflops, and it's rumored that the Xbox One S is going to have about 6. And the Switch only does one. A lot of flops there. But you can see the problem here, right? Current gen consoles are more powerful than the Switch and are getting more powerful than the Switch. But the Switch is still at its at this current weaker state. We don't know if in the future the Switch will get an update because they are even using an older chipset. I think Maxwell, but they're using an older chipset on a system that's supposed to be new with decent quality of games on it. And I say decent simply because all the games that we've seen now are ports. We got Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I believe the demo we saw of it way back was running on the Wii U, and nothing really looks different. I haven't really been keeping up with Zelda, but I'm still seeing the Wii U version of the game. They did kind of tease a new Mario game, but Mario games have never really been graphically impressive, and we've got some third-party support that's been confirmed. But for the most part, the game kind of, or the system, doesn't really feel like it's going to offer much. Yes, I want my first party games to be good, but I also want to have third party support. Like, if I want to be able to play Destiny, I should be able to play it on the Switch. I will be able to play it on the Switch, assuming that they do make a port for the Switch and the Switch has no issues running it. I don't think it will have issues running it. But take a look at the game that came out, The Last Guardian. Base model PlayStation 4s have problems running the game smoothly. And a base model PlayStation 4 is more powerful than the Nintendo Switch. So if they were to put something like The Last Guardian on the Nintendo Switch, they would have to butcher the game in some kind of way just to get it to have a halfway decent experience. And that's not what I want to see. And that's not what developers want to do. They don't want to make a game and then have to strip it of all its tech just so it can run on a weaker console. And while the Nintendo Switch does look good, I am getting one by the way, it already feels like it's obsolete. And people are going to say, well, the game is not about the graphics, it's about the experience. And yeah, I agree with you. It is about the experience. I've never been the person to care about graphics in a game. Do I want my games to look nice? Yes, I want them to feel polished. I don't care what art style that they use, but if it feels polished, then I'm fine with that. But graphics does matter for a game system because you want third-party developers to develop for it. And if they have to butcher their game just to put it on your console, chances are they're not going to develop for it. And we're going to have the same situation that we had with the Wii U. Now we have the entire console in your hands, which is probably what they were trying to go for with the Wii U, but it's the actual console. So we have another console that's using gimmicks. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing because Nintendo has always wanted to capture the market of casual gamers. And a large amount of your casual gamers now play on their mobile phones. Whether they're playing Candy Crush Saga or some other game. My mom likes playing the Cooking Mama games for the most part. Diner Dash. She likes games like that. And this here is to give those people that same experience. Now, if you want to play a game on your console, you don't have to sit in front of your TV. You can take it with you. Now, that is extremely good. I'm glad that they did something like that. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that the game system or the console, it does lock out its true power so it can get that targeted range battery life that it's going for. You know, like they said, the power cuts down to about 40% of what it runs on the dock, just so you can take it with you. Not necessarily a bad thing, but developers have to keep that part in mind when they're running their games. Like take Batman Arkham Knight, for example. Let's say they want to port that to the Switch. They would now have to make two versions of the game, one for the portable version, so that the game can still feel optimized while you're playing it on the go, and then another version for the actual like TV. Now this here is nothing but playing with power settings and whatnot, but or not power settings, but graphical settings. But that still takes a lot of work because a graphics engine, if you've ever seen one, the things are very complex. It's like looking at a network of waves for the most part. Like it's a very complex thing, and you're talking about turning all of that down and still making it look like that takes work to do. And the game has to know when the game is going to be in dock or when it's going to be portable. So it has to be able to instantly switch between the two without any kind of disruption in gameplay. That's going to be more work the developer has to do. All they have to do is make the game once and then release it on a bunch of platforms. Of course, there's going to be a couple changes here and there, but the changes are not something that's going to really break the bank. You're going back and telling them, well, for the Nintendo Switch version, we need this version at this peak, and then when it goes portable, we have to effectively reduce the game's graphical engine 60%, quite possibly more than that. That's probably going to drop it about 70%, maybe 35 at the lowest, or 65 at the lowest, because they don't know how the game is going to react with the portable mode is going to require more testing, and we already know how these game developers out here are nowadays. They don't test anything. I mean, they release games to Steam that are completely broken, and all I'm saying, there's going to be more things that they have to do that they already aren't doing, and who is going to want to do that? So, from a manufacturer standpoint, Nintendo should be saying, yes, our system is going to be capable of the processing power that the current PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One S will have. If it can find a medium in there somewhere. Like Nintendo has never been a pioneer in technology or been trying to keep up with the trends. They want to do what works for them. But the thing is, what works for them doesn't work for everyone else. Back then, there weren't really many choices for games. The Nintendo 64 was good, but I mean, how many people owned third-party Nintendo 64 games? I mean, looking back at my 64 games, I think I only had maybe three third-party games. Everything else was a Nintendo game, and that's fine. But what if you wanted to play something else? And at this point, I am considering Rare, their games on the 64 as part of Nintendo since they worked and developed for them. So, but like when you go to the PlayStation, you had its exclusives. Did the PlayStation even have exclusives? I think the only one might have been like Spiral the Dragon or something like that. I don't remember, but like the PlayStation had so many games, and that's where Sony like picked up. That people wanted to develop for their system. It didn't cost that much to develop for their system, and there weren't these restrictions on it that Nintendo was having. And this right here kind of feels like an artificial restriction, simply because the developers have to essentially make the game twice just to run it on their system. And who wants to do that? I don't think anybody wants to do that. We will have some people that will make games for their system. It will always happen. Like Nintendo's first party games are always going to look great, but do you always want a first party game? I should be able to go into a store and be like, I'm going to buy the new Call of Duty game for my Nintendo Switch because it can run it. That's what I want to be able to say. And the last time I played Call of Duty game on the Wii, it was Call of Duty Black Ops. And the game was so butchered versus the PlayStation 3 version that to me it was just unplayable. And I talked about it and my friends defended the Wii U version or the Wii version. I'm like, no, play it on the PlayStation 3 and then go back and you'll see what I'm talking about. But a lot of people are very defensive when it comes to Nintendo, and I don't understand that. I believe if you love something, you have to criticize it. And that's the one thing that people hate about me. And I believe that is also causing me problems in other communities because I'm very critical of the things that I enjoy. And people don't understand that. They'll say, well, if you love it, then how can you say these things about it? And I say them because I want it to be better. I want to say, I own a Nintendo Switch and I don't regret it. Like as of now, I sold my Wii U because I didn't own any games for it. The games that they were trying to sell me on, I already had on another system. So why would I want to play them again on technically a system that Nintendo stopped supporting? It doesn't make any sense to me. If I want to be able to play, well now PlayStation 4 games, there isn't a Wii U equivalent that's not downgraded in some way. And I simply don't want that. I want the best possible experience that I can have with my games. If that means the developers don't butcher it graphically, then that's fine. If they don't remove features on it, that's fine. If they add more to the Wii U version or the Nintendo Switch in this case, if they add more to it, then great. I'll be willing to check it out. But I feel that if Nintendo doesn't get it right with the Switch, this is going to be their last console. And I don't want to say that because I do love Nintendo. Now, the one thing that I want other people to realize is that Nintendo doesn't have feelings. Nintendo isn't going to cry if you don't buy their game system. Basically, what that means is don't defend them. They are not a person. They are a corporation. And a corporation doesn't care what you think. The only thing they care about at the end of the day is money. People might say, well, Sony and Microsoft are charging people way too much for the game with online services, and just in general, the consoles are too expensive. I would much rather have a console that's costs me $350, $400 and know that it's going to play games for the next X amount of years versus a console that is already underpowered at launch compared to what is currently on the market, and then wondering if my choice to buy it was justified. And that's kind of the thing that I worry about, is that I want the Switch to be good. I really do. I want it to be successful. But Nintendo has to put in the effort. And the system looked nice. It looks very sleek. But I necessarily do not mind, a console that sits on top of my dresser that just plays my games. If they wanted to, they could make a Nintendo Switch equivalent of the 3DS and have that serve as the um, the portable version of it. But the way things are looking now, it's that I don't think Nintendo is going to really be doing well with this system. Now, that's too early to say for sure. I don't want to sit here and say things are all doom and gloom. You know, Nintendo is really good at getting their hardware to do exactly what they want, and that's always good. But the developers always have an issue with that. And this year is running an NVIDIA chipset, and we already know that it is going to be a modified version of the Maxwell chip, but we don't exactly know what it entails for the actual system. But I just wanted to just get my views out there on that. I want the Nintendo Switch to be good. I'm going to buy one if it isn't, simply because I just love Nintendo. I want to have the Switch. I just want to say I have this experience. And I guess that's going to be it for this video. And as always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch it, and I hope to see you all in the next one.